What the bloody hell happened to Australia? I'll tell you what, we're getting played like a busted pokie machine by our so-called leaders, and nobody's got the guts to say it out loud. Anthony Albanese, the self-proclaimed battler from Marrickville, has somehow managed to not only light Australia's reputation on fire, but to pour petrol on it while smiling for the cameras. This bloke went and recognized Palestine as a state. Yep, you heard right, and now the Americans are ropeable. And not just any Americans, I'm talking about Trump himself, the bloke who's back in the Oval Office and doesn't forget a grudge if it's tattooed across his forehead. Albo thought he could pull a sneaky, do it months before seeing Trump. Reckon everyone in Washington would have moved on by the time his Qantas flight landed. But nah, mate, Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton, Elise Bloody Stefanik, they wrote a letter spelling it out. Punish Australia. Think about that, punish. We're not talking about a slap on the wrist. We're talking about economic screws, defense cold shoulders, trade being shoved in the bin, and all because Albo wanted to look like some moral hero on the world stage, while Aussies back home can't even pay their bloody power bills. Before we dive into Albo's Palestine disaster, where Trump's sharpening the axe, Lay's circling like a shark, and China's having a bloody laugh, smash that like button like you're slapping sanctions on Canberra. Subscribe if you're sick of watching our leaders sell us out. And grab the "Who voted for this" shirt, links in the description. And here's the kicker, right? Susan Ley, who's just grabbed the Liberal leadership, is sharpening the knives faster than a butcher before Christmas. She's the first woman to lead the Libs, and she's already circling like a shark that smells blood. Don't get me wrong, she's no Margaret Thatcher, but compared to Albanese's bumbling, Ley suddenly looks like a prime minister in waiting. And don't think she won't use this Palestine disaster to paint Albo as some red-leaning, China-hugging sellout. Because let's be honest, that's the way it looks. He's cozying up to Beijing, slashing defense spending, opening the floodgates for thousands of Gaza refugees, while the housing market's already more cooked than a servo pie at 3am. And the Americans? They're not buying it. They reckon we're rewarding terrorism. Imagine that, Australia, the country that fought alongside the Yanks in every bloody war, now being called out for siding with Hamas. That's the perception, mate, and perception is everything. Now, if you think Trump's gonna let this slide, you're living in fairyland. This is the same Trump who humiliated the South African president in the Oval Office without even blinking. If Albo gets a sit down, which is already being downgraded to some pull aside in a hallway like a school principal dressing down a naughty kid, Trump's gonna tear strips off him. And trust me, Trump's not subtle. He'll call him a socialist, a communist, a weakling. Hell, he might even mispronounce his name for a laugh. And Albo? He'll sit there nodding like a stunned mullet because what else can he do? If he claps back, we lose the alliance. If he stays quiet, he looks pathetic. Either way, Australia cops it. But here's the dirty secret nobody is saying out loud. This isn't just about Palestine. This is about a bigger fight, freedom versus authoritarianism. America sees itself as the guardian of democracy, whether you agree with that or not. And right now, they reckon Australia's drifting to the wrong side. Censorship through the SFT commissioner, deals with China, cutting ties with Israel, gagging free speech online, it all paints a picture. And let me tell you, Trump and his Vice President J.D. Vance aren't exactly known for holding back. They're already calling out Albo for stifling speech. Imagine what happens when they throw that in his face at a world summit, cameras rolling, Australia's name dragged through the mud, and all because Albo wanted applause in Geneva. And here's where it gets even more cooked. Albo's decision wasn't some grand strategy. It was domestic politics, pure and simple. The bloke still thinks he's living in a grubby Newtown sharehouse, winning brownie points with his uni mates. But running a country isn't about impressing inner city elites. It's about protecting the people who put you there. And what do we get instead? 3,000 Gaza refugees dumped into our suburbs, no consultation, no plan, no clue. Meanwhile, ordinary Aussies are battling rent hikes, mortgage stress, and cost of living nightmares. You reckon they care about Palestine when their grocery bills doubled? Not a chance. Susan Ley knows this, and she's gonna milk it dry. Picture her at the next presser. Albanese is selling out our allies, weakening our defense, and putting global virtue signaling ahead of Aussie families. She doesn't even have to try hard, the ammo's already there. And the scary bit? Voters will eat it up. Because if there's one thing Aussies hate more than being ignored, it's being made to look like idiots on the world stage. And right now, thanks to Albo, we look like the class clown at the G20. Now, let me throw a grenade in here. What if this is exactly what China wants? Think about it. Albo bends over backwards for Beijing, cuts deals left and right, And suddenly our alliance with the US looks shakier than a drunk bloke on a ladder. Who benefits? China. They get a weaker Australia, a distracted America, and more influence in the Pacific. It's like a game of chess, and Albo's moving pawns while Xi Jinping's already planning checkmate. And what are we doing? Arguing about pronouns and net zero targets while our allies lose faith in us. If that doesn't make your blood boil, nothing will. And here's the thing nobody dares say. Trump loves loyalty, but he hates weakness. If he thinks Australia's going soft, he'll ice us out quicker than you can say fair dinkum. Forget trade deals, forget defense pacts, forget mateship. America will look elsewhere, and we'll be left scrambling. That's the reality. And Albanese? He's either too blind to see it or too arrogant to care. Meanwhile, Lay's waiting in the wings, ready to pounce. And if you reckon that's the end of it, think again, because the Yanks aren't bluffing. This isn't some puff piece in the papers, it's Trump's people spelling it out in black and white. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And what's Albo doing? Jetting off on an 11-day trip across 3 countries, like a tourist with a government credit card, instead of staying home to sort the mess he's created. While Aussies are lining up at food banks, the bloke's sipping wine at banquets pretending he's a statesman. It's insulting, it's pathetic, and it's bloody dangerous. Because when Trump finally does turn his full attention on Australia, and you know he will, because Trump's like a shark, he can smell weakness a mile off, we're gonna be the ones paying the price, not Albo and his mates in the Canberra bubble. Now, don't get me wrong, Australia's no stranger to bad governments. We've had our fair share of clowns in charge. Remember Rudd's pink bats disaster? Gillard's carbon tax lie? Abbott's captain's calls? Turnbull's ego trip? Morrison's holiday in Hawaii? Yeah, we've copped it all. But this is next level. Because it's not just about incompetence. It's about actively putting us at odds with our closest ally while cozying up to the people who'd love nothing more than to see us on our knees. That's treacherous stuff, mate. And for what? So Albo can preen around at the UN like he's some modern-day Mandela? Give me a break. And let's not pretend Susan Lay doesn't see her chance here. She's already painting herself as the steady hand, the grown-up in the room, the one who'll rebuild ties with the US and stop the woke nonsense that's turned Australia into a global laughingstock. Whether she can actually pull it off is another story, but perception is everything in politics. And right now, she looks like the safe option compared to Albo's kamikaze foreign policy. She'll play the patriot card, she'll hammer him on cost of living, and she'll keep whispering in voters' ears that Labor's forgotten who they serve. And honestly, she won't be wrong. But here's the real spicy bit. What happens if Trump decides he's had enough and actually slaps sanctions on us? Imagine that. Aussie exports locked out of the US market, joint military programs frozen, trade deals ripped up. We'd be standing there like stunned mullets wondering how the hell we got iced out by our best mate. And who'll cop it hardest? Not the politicians. Not the big end-of-town lobbyists. It'll be farmers, truckies, spockies, small business owners, the backbone of this country. They'll be the ones left holding the bag while Canberra bureaucrats keep sipping their lattes and pretending everything's fine. And don't think Trump won't go that far. He's unpredictable, sure, but he's also a master of punishment politics. Remember when he slapped tariffs on China, on the EU, even on Canada, for crying out loud, the country that apologizes when you bump into them. If he can stiff-arm Trudeau, he can flatten Albo without even blinking. And the worst part? It won't just be Trump. US Republicans across the board are furious about this Palestine stunt. Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton, Ely Stefanik, they're already lining up to make an example out of Australia. They want to show the world that you don't mess with America's allies without paying the price. And we're the unlucky guinea pigs. Meanwhile, Albo's sitting there like nothing's wrong, smiling for the cameras, mumbling about strengthening international partnerships, while back home Aussies can't even afford to fill up the cup. And that's the part that really grinds my gears. The Xi disconnect. Politicians swan around in limos and business class, talking about values and human rights, while the average Aussie is juggling 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. And then Albo has the audacity to lecture us about doing the right thing on the global stage. Mate, the right thing would be making sure your people don't have to choose between rent and food. That's the right thing. And don't think Beijing's not licking its lips. Every time America and Australia drift apart, China wins. It's that simple. They don't even have to lift a finger. They just sit back, watch Albo trip over himself, and quietly slide in with more deals, more influence, more control. We're already drowning in Chinese imports, our universities are hooked on Chinese students, and half the suburbs in Sydney are being bought up by Chinese investors. Now imagine what happens if America turns its back on us. We won't just be leaning on China, we'll be chained to them. And once that happens, good luck ever getting free. Here's the brutal truth. Albanese isn't just weak. He's reckless. He's gambling with the future of our country like it's some poker night at the RSL. He thinks he's playing the big boys game, but he doesn't even know the rules. And the Americans? They're not impressed. They're angry, they're insulted, and they're ready to hit back. And when they do, no amount of spin from Canberra will save us. So where does that leave us? Stuck in the middle of a geopolitical storm we didn't ask for, with a leader who's out of his depth and an opposition leader who's still trying to prove she's more than a headline. But make no mistake, the tide's turning. Aussies aren't mugs. They can see through the facade. They know when they're being sold out. And Albo's days of pretending he's the battler's champion are numbered. The question is, will Susonlay step up and actually offer a real alternative, or will we just swap one disaster for another? At the end of the day, this isn't about left versus right, Labour versus Liberal, Albo versus Lay. It's about whether Australia's leaders actually give a damn about the people they serve. Because right now, it sure as hell doesn't feel like it. We're being dragged into foreign policy stunts, censored at home, ignored on cost of living, and treated like pawns in a game none of us agreed to play. And Aussies are sick of it. They're angry, they're restless, and they're ready for change. So here's the bottom line, mate. If Albo keeps down this path, we're stuffed. America will ice us out, China will box us in, and ordinary Aussies will cop the fallout. It's not just controversial, it's catastrophic. And all because one bloke wanted to look good on the world stage while ignoring the crisis at home. If that doesn't make your blood boil, nothing will. See you in the next one. And don't forget to slap that like button like it just flogged off your local footy club to fund another overseas virtue signaling tour. Oi, and if you're really fired up, grab the "Who voted for this" shirt, wear it to the next protest, the next pub chat, or just when you're forking out $9 for a flat white while wondering why your hard-earned taxes are fixing someone else's mess instead of ours. Stay loud, stay awake, and never stop fighting for the Australia we bloody deserve.